Cop laughs at poor man's car, not knowing he was a secret internal affairs agent. He was a patrol cop 14 years in chest-perfect uniform pristine, responding to a minor complaint in a dying neighborhood. He saw a junker rusted green abandoned on the curb with dents and flat tires. The owner, a man in torn jeans, climbed in the driver's seat. He slid the door shut. Engine coughing alive, the cop smirked as he patrolled by shaking his head at the spectacle shaking off. The man like he was invisible. He barked a mock loud laugh, expecting applause from a fellow officer around the next corner. But there was no one else there. He didn't know the man watched from the windshield, eyes deep and composed. He didn't know that man was actually an undercover internal affairs agent working one dirtiest precincts in the state. The agent had sold the car for just a buckle in the engine. A test to see who would bite, who would laugh, notice him, and who would try to learn more. The cop's co-workers filmed the scene, shared it on social media. With memes mocking the car, the cop loved it. Didn't know this was his audition for his downfall. Meanwhile, the agent documented everything. Logged badge numbers, radio calls, every detail. One stinging image, the cop selfie with the car. Tagged nice ride for YouTube. That night the cop went home pride after a day's havoc. He didn't know tomorrow morning a knock on his door didn't mean greeting. It meant investigation. He hadn't realized he cursed himself. And in a few moments, he'd make the worst decision of his life, not knowing he was being watched from the backseat of that junker car. If you're tuning in now, drop your city or country in the comments and subscribe. The next phase explodes everything you think you know at the core of this story. The cop, Officer Stevens, slept restlessly that night, dreaming of his mocking laugh and the smug memes circulating online. He checked his phone again at 3 a.m. Looked at his notifications, dozens of like shares, comments, all mocking the crashed clown car and flashing a filter that made it look straight out of a cartoon. He smiled in his sleep, pleased with the validation. He didn't realize validation could be a trap. The next morning, 2 detectives showed up at the precinct. Stevens was called to room 112. Minutes later, he was staring at his lieutenant's face, the words dripping like acid. Internal Affairs is opening a misconduct investigation. His eyes darted to the corner, an intact report. The man from the broken-down car sat there. Same shirt, same worn jeans. Calm. Unassuming. The man he laughed at. Stevens froze. That man who didn't even look him in the eye when he laughed was Agent Turner. The secret IAD operative Stevens had never seen or known existed. Assigned to record raw behavior of rogue cops. Turner spoke quietly. I took notes. Recorded your badge number. Logged your patrol route. I didn't stop you. I let you make your evidence. Laughing at people is misconduct. Worse when you're paid to serve. Worse when you're blessed with power. During the months that followed, everything collapsed. Stevens' partner recorded indiscreet talk about minorities. A work tablet logged chat logs, jokes made in the break room. A dashcam recorded a traffic stop he handled roughly. IAD montage. Every step, every offense. He thought the junker was just fodder. It was bait. And he bit it. By midday, the precinct was buzzing. Colleagues whispered. Some were worried. Some were judging. Stevens' face appeared in an internal bulletin. Duty suspended pending disciplinary hearing. The precinct meme. The green sketch of the car and tags corrupt cruiser now became evidence. His name, his face, his wrongdoing in public and private. Meanwhile, Agent Turner quietly filed his report. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He had served justice without hate, respectfully, invisibly. He closed the case folder. It was over when Stevens broke. The moral coded this whole mess. Loud and clear, a uniform doesn't make a man honorable. A broken car isn't a joke. Karma waits like a patient detective, letting you dig your own grave with your own laugh. Stevens sat at home in silence. His badge lay heavy on the coffee table. He replayed the confrontation with Agent Turner, his laughter echoing in his mind, like a hammer against his own pride. He didn't just lose a badge. He lost trust, power, identity. Day one of suspension, and local news had picked up the story. Channels ran split screens, his uniform on left, the beaten-up green sedan on right. Anchor voices dripping with incredulity. Officer accused of mocking marginalized citizen now suspended. Comments spiraled. Some outraged, some supportive, but the public verdict felt swift and unforgiving. Stevens' phone buzzed constantly. His wife ignored calls. Friends drifted away. Some colleagues offered silent sympathy. Others muttered behind his back. He felt exposed, like peeling back a shell and revealing the rot underneath. Meanwhile, Agent Turner monitored quietly. No fanfare. No Instagram post. No selfie. Just the report. A file labeled Behavior Analysis leading to official disciplinary action. Steel-hard facts. Witness statements. Third-party footage. Raw audio. The laughing clip. The chat logs. He had done his job. Stevens received a letter. A formal inquiry. Hearing date set. He sat across the room from IAD officers. Facing his actions. Facing his arrogance. The green sedan screenshot paused on a big screen behind them, his laugh frozen in time. Turner testified. Flat. Precise. Just facts. No vindictiveness. He mocked a man because of a car. He joked with colleagues about social status. That behavior erodes public faith. Stevens' throat tightened. Words meant to cut. Racism. Classism. Abuse of power. He flinched under the weight of the badge disappearing from his chest. That afternoon, a woman showed up in the hallway outside the hearing room, the owner of the car. A single mother, hair pulled back, eyes steady and calm. She stepped forward and delivered a statement. I may not own a nice car, but I deserved respect. My children ride in that car. My neighbor, my clients. They all deserve the law's protection regardless of status. Her voice quivered when she added, that car is my life. The room held its breath. No one spoke after that. The hearing board deliberated. And after agonizing hours, they reached their decision. Termination. Badge pulled. Name scrubbed from rosters. Official statement. He breached the trust vested in his role to serve fairly. Public humiliation followed press release, internal email, social media thread. Outside, Stevens held the statement in trembling fingers. He looked at the badge once more through tears. A man who built power on permission, not service, now eroded by his own conduct. Across the city, the woman in the torn jeans walked back to her car. Turner met her briefly, exchanged contact info. Civil, professional. He didn't ask for praise. He didn't offer commendation. His duty was done. Stevens' days of privilege ended. His career wiped out by a moment of thoughtless laughter. And now he had nothing. Just a lesson draped in regret and moral weight. Respect is not optional, it's owed. He woke up the next morning to a world turned upside down. The precinct doors he once walked through with pride now felt like prison gates. His badge sat on the nightstand like a stone weighing down the air. The headline was plastered across his phone. Ex-Officer Stevens fired over. Disrespectful mockery of civilian. He chopped eggs in silence at the kitchen counter. His wife had moved out with the kids. No goodbye. No negotiations. A locked door. A note. I can't do this anymore. His best friend didn't return calls. His colleagues at the cop union avoided him. Social media spat his name across feeds his face. Scrolled alongside the image of that green rusting car. He'd become a meme of shame. But that wasn't the worst part. At the chamber where his hearing ended, the woman he mocked handed a statement to the board. But she also filed a civil suit. She had lost clients because of insinuations. People assuming her car meant she was poor, lazy, unstable. Income lost. Reputational damage. She demanded public apology. She demanded respect. Now, he had to face her again. He walked into the civil courtroom. She was calm, dressed professionally. Her son sitting next to her, clutching a backpack. Eyes wise beyond his years. She testified again about how a single mother scrapes by. How the car meant everything. Safe drop-offs, late-night shifts, a lifeline. Every word hit him harder than the termination. He sobbed when the judge held up the $50,000 restitution check. Money he didn't have. Money he'd never imagined paying. Money earned not by mistakes, but by his mistakes catching up. And Agent Turner? He watched quietly from the back seat. Not gloating. Just solemn. His duty was done. His identity never revealed. He saw Stevens break, fade, then crumble that night. Stevens walked the streets he once patrolled. He passed the vintage diner he used to joke in. The officers on patrol recognized him, lowered their heads, shuffled past, silent. He passed the jail cell blocks he'd helped enforce. Now he was on the other side. No badge, no respect, just a man haunted by hollow laughter. The moral cut deeper than the public. Shaming. Power gained without empathy is hollow. Power abused strips identity. Karma doesn't need vengeance. Only awareness. He didn't recognize mornings anymore. Time felt broken. Each sunrise served not as hope but as a reminder that nothing would be the same. Emails flooded in. Collection notices, an eviction warning, more legal paperwork from the civil suit. Barely 6 weeks ago, his name meant authority. Now it meant liability. He tried job hunting. He updated his resume. But HR portals flagged his name. Background checks tripped alarms. Terminated for misconduct hung between every line. Doors closed. Phone calls ended when he said his name. He found temp work as a courier, delivering envelopes he once signed. Humble, anonymous, necessary. Meanwhile, the woman's nonprofit blossomed. She used the $50,000 compensation to repair the car, pay for son's school laptop, and start a credit repair workshop for single mothers. The mocked car became a symbol. Jones's mobile help center. Volunteers gathered. Stories shared. Resilience celebrated. Her son grew proud. Not because of money, but because his mom built something people needed. She wore dignity in her voice, in her walk. His peers looked at her with missing respect until they saw her name. Then they looked again. Deep in that shift was the seed of moral truth. Respect isn't earned by wealth, it's owed by humanity. Stevens watched all of it unfold. From a distance. News articles, Instagram reels, local TV features. Every clip a reminder, his downfall became her uplift. One morning, he got a letter hand-delivered. She requested a meeting. Not in court. Not in the press. Just to sit down at the community center she founded. He nervously pushed open the door. Her team greeted him with cautious warmth. No pity. No hostility. Just guarded grace. She approached him, not here to attack, she said. Here to invite. Invite to what? He didn't know, she explained. She wanted his legal experience. She'd been offered a grant to expand, but legal paperwork overwhelmed her. Could he advise, pro bono? Just for the community's sake. Just to help them avoid mistakes. Not as a cop, just as a man who once collapsed and learned. He locked eyes with her. Not as adversary. Not as victim. But as flawed human. Hurt. Changed. Maybe worthy of contribution. He agreed. He started training under her non-profit. Drafting policy. Advising behind the scenes. He was rebuilding identity. This time without the badge. Just with experience. With empathy born from humiliation, people noticed. It had been nearly a year. The laugh that once echoed in a dusty roadside stop had long faded from headlines. But not from memory. The ex-officer now walked halls of justice not in uniform, but in advocacy. His tie replaced his badge. His weapon was now truth. The non-profit thrived. Dozens of at-risk teens found internships. Former inmates were trained in security ethics. And the community saw the building. Once mocked as a place of power and protection. But something still stirred in him. Justice for one woman wasn't enough. Systems had failed, and he knew too well that there were more like him, still on the inside, still mocking, still hiding, still doing damage in shadows. And so, he returned, not to arrest, not to avenge, but to reform. He filed a formal petition to join the Police Oversight Commission. Many laughed again. An ex-cop with a disgraceful exit? Asking to sit at the same table as senior brass? It was bold. It was unprecedented. But one commissioner read his file. She recognized the case. The woman he mocked had written a letter in support of his petition. It read, simply, "He once laughed at the way I lived. Now he helps others live without fear. That's the kind of man I trust to hold others accountable." And that letter changed everything. The vote was split. But he was appointed. By one vote. His first meeting was called. Chairs shifted away from him. Old colleagues whispered. But he was not there for applause. He was there for purpose. Over months, he reviewed dozens of misconduct cases. Some were minor slights. Others were tragic. And each time, he brought the lens of his own failure to the table. Not to excuse others, but to recognize the early signs. He pushed for new training methods. Emotional intelligence assessments. Civilian shadowing. And slowly, people listened. Then came the day that would test him most. The officer who had been his direct supervisor. Back when he mocked the car was under investigation. Caught on camera shoving a street vendor, calling them ungrateful. Mocking their accent, then walking away. When the video hit the internet, it exploded. The public demanded justice. The officer, now a sergeant, denied wrongdoing. claimed the video was edited. But when he walked into the review board hearing and saw his former subordinate sitting in judgment, his face dropped. "You?" he hissed. "They let you in here?" He didn't flinch. "Yes," he said. "And today, we don't laugh. We listen." The hearing was tense. The sergeant tried to paint himself as a victim of cancel culture. But when testimonies were heard and body cam footage was revealed, his guilt was clear. The vote to terminate him was unanimous. The former IA agent didn't celebrate. He didn't gloat. He simply signed the final report and placed it in the file cabinet. Accountability, not revenge. Later that day, he walked past a familiar parking lot. There it was. That old, rusted car, still running, still dented, still real. The woman hadn't upgraded. She'd said, "This car reminds me to stay grounded, no matter how high I rise." And now, so did he. He took the long way home, in silence, with humility. At a stoplight, a patrol cruiser pulled up beside him. The young officer in the front seat glanced at him, then looked away. But then, the officer rolled the window down and said, "Sir, I read your story. I'm new in the force. You're the reason I joined Internal Affairs. We need more like you." His eyes watered. He nodded. "Keep your head. And your heart," he said. "You'll need both." The light turned green. He drove off, not fast, not flashy, but fulfilled. His journey from mockery to meaning was complete. And the world, perhaps, just a little better for it. The lesson? Power means nothing without respect. Uniforms don't define integrity. And karma always circles back.